Hey gang, welcome back to another edition of Klock Talk, and we are headed into the month of March, and we're talking choppers. The calendar features none other than the Flashback chopper on the top, and off to the other side of the sidebar here you can see a couple other Sportster choppers, a red one and a yellow one we did, and then a black one we did for Terry Iman back in the day. We did a lot of these for tall guys for whatever reason. For a while there we had some 5-inch extended controls and the bikes were really stretched out.
And I try to test ride them and sit on top of the tank almost.
Yeah. Dan's all crouched up there going, I can ride this, I got this. How to Build a Cheap Chopper was the first book that we were actually featured in by Tim Remus. This is actually the Softail version we were also featured in, but the How to Build a Cheap Chopper thing was a really big deal, and really, I think, probably is one of the things that really got us noticed more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, because we were known for building Sportsters, bikes built based on Sportsters for a while. I mean, we had done a ton of Softails and stuff, but it's just, I don't know, we got notoriety for Sportster stuff, and then we started doing some Sportster chopper stuff, and while most of them were cheaper than the big twin alternatives, the particular Flashback ended up not being the best candidate for the book How to Build a Cheap Chopper, because it ended up getting very elaborate, and I mean, I don't know, it's an awesome bike.
Yeah, we were in the little garage, 2001. Dave Skolton, who's an investment guy here in town, came in and wanted to do a little project for him and his son Brandon, and he said, I want that 70s chopper look, and can we do it with a Sportster? And I don't remember if we got a donor Sportster, or if this was actually a crate motor we bought.
I can't even remember. I was sitting here trying to think. I think that was actually a crate motor that we had ended up getting from Harley.
The cool thing about this frame really is that it's a row rubber mount chassis. So now you had a rubber mounted Sportster in this particular one. Later on we went to a rigid frame that we built with the folks at Rolling Thunder for our bare minimum, which was an actual cheaper way to go. This one was expensive because of this chassis, but you can see the single down tube front on it. It also had the rubber mount blocks like in FXR and shocks and a tubular swing arm. This frame was super lightweight.
It's all chromoly.
It was awesome. And then you can see we took a Sportster tank and we used the newer style one because I think it was 2000 they came out with that newer style tank. So we used a brand new style tank, so it actually had a little bit of a more rounded edge to it, so it molded better with the frame and the rounded edges we had there. The frame would have ended here and had a straight strut. We had these pieces machined that were curved and matched the radius of the fender. We used Deuce fork legs, factory Deuce fork legs, and had a flush mount Deuce axle. And then this fender is making Dan laugh probably because
that's what I'm sitting here laughing at.
And what he understands is that at the time we were all about cool. It wasn't so much about function as it was the cool factor.
I was always like, why would you ride this thing anyways? I mean, it's too beautiful to ride, so who cares?
And so we mounted this fender down just as tight as possible. I mean, if you literally rolled this thing through the parking lot,
pick up a pebble, shing, shing.
It was scraping in there because it was too tight.
And back then, that's how I knew I had mounted it just right.
Just the rock factor. 6.5-inch headlight, which I think was at that time available through Chrome Specialties only, so it was kind of a unique thing. You can see how we mounted it with a drop bracket, so it was just below the tree. We only wanted the headlight to look like it was an extension of this top tube, and so you can see the line matches perfectly. Mounted the tank Frisco style, so it was up top. We had these little bums machined for this cool little knurled cap. Those were an awesome part.
Yeah, for the fuel cap, and for the tank had zero exposed mounting hardware. We had countersunk some recessed mounting bungs in the backbone of the frame, which we had boxed out, or had Mark Rowe box that frame out, or we might have boxed this one in this original. I can't remember how it worked. Anyways, we boxed that frame out, countersunk some bungs in there, and then in the tunnel of the tank, I had welded in some threaded bungs or higher Chris, I can't remember. And so you just set the tank on these pegs, they would slide in and then bolt it from the bottom.
And we ended up with, I believe it was a set of Werks shocks on the back of this, and then we had this sissy bar or chick stick that we actually mounted into bungs in the fender and was supported that way, so it was real smooth and slick. You couldn't see any exposed mounting hardware. Danny Gray made a custom seat for it. The pipe was very unique in the fact that this side went around and the other side just came out that same side, so it was two Siamese pipes, but it was out the primary side of the bike.
And they nestled right next to the primary side of the oil tank. Really cool. Smoothed out the rear.
Yeah.
The rear sprocket cover, you know, usually it's got a master cylinder mount block, and so we smoothed that out, had it re-chromed. The oil tank is a piece that we made, polished, and then had painted. I don't know.
PM brakes, PM forward controls. We used the old style just so it had a little bit more nostalgia to it. These wheels were super cool.
Still my favorite, probably. PM 12 spokes, I believe they're called.
Yeah, it was a very vintage looking Morris Mag kind of feel.
Yeah, they're awesome. I like them.
The paint, obviously you can see we had some hidden flames in there, lots of pinstriping down the frame tube so you could see the curves and see everything that was going on, and then of course the gold leaf and the scrolling, and it just turned out to be one of those fantastic bikes.
Yeah, and the guy that painted it, I'm not sure where he's at today. Crazy talented. Him and James, that worked for James Mayer, painted it. He was a guy who came, I don't even know where he came from.
He came up from Oklahoma.
John Doe.
Yeah, Corey jumped to him. His name was literally John
Doe. Is what he went by.
Pretty sure he was hiding from something, but that's why we don't know where he's at today. So John, if you're out there, holler at us. Thanks a lot. The bike's still fantastic.
Yeah, he taught James so much on that deal. It was fun.
This girl on the cover of Easyriders, her name is not John Doe. This may be Jane Doe, potentially. But the bike was featured in Easyriders, and we were super excited to get this big a spread. Michael Lichter shot it. You can see Michael and I and the kid, Ryan Mattel, we were all a little bit younger at that point. Some of the features Dan was talking about earlier, Dan, you want to point out the way we did these spark plug wires and stuff? That was pretty cool.
Yeah, we did made a little wiring channel. We mounted the coil down back beneath on the motor mount. We did that on quite a few of our choppers,
Right.
kind of our style.
Yep.
And sometimes we'd run them up between the cylinders and then come out the heads. But this particular one, we made a little channel that actually seconded as the motor mount for the top. It's got an FXR style top motor mount heim joint. You can see, well, right here in this photo and here, and I'm sure they'll click through some photos on screen, but the exhaust that came out. This was I don't know, this bike, when we built it, we had a lot of fun doing it. Chris Weber was working with us then, doing a lot of metal fab, and
it certainly made a statement. I mean, when we took this thing to shows and people saw it, I mean, everybody loved it. As soon as that came out in Easyriders, we got tons of calls. It was a really big deal, and it launched that whole minimalistic chopper thing, and people are laughing and joking right now saying choppers are dead, and I'm seeing Aaron Green and some of those guys on Instagram posting the Paragon, the crazy tanks, and choppers aren't dead. Choppers are still as cool as ever. So if you're into it, go build yourself a chopper. If you build a Sportster chopper, send it to us. We'd love to see it. But check it out. This is March, and it is all about choppers.